Hi everyone, Nezzy here. I'm going to show you how to make sugar cookies. This is a very simple, easy recipe. It is my go-to recipe for most of my cookies that I make, especially if I need to cut them out in a special design. They come out perfectly every single time. So I'm going to go over the ingredients you need. So I'm going to bring down the camera so you guys can actually see the ingredients and see me making it. Okay, so for this recipe, you will need 1 cup of, or 2 sticks of unsalted butter. Now your butter, you want to make sure it is at room temperature. If you can put your finger in it, that's room temperature. It does not lose its shape. It just makes an indentation. You do not want it melted. You just need it at room temperature. So I'm going to put that in my mixer. So you need 2 sticks of unsalted butter. Use name brands butter, not store brands. You're going to need also 1½ cups of confectioner's sugar, 1 egg, 2 to 3 teaspoons of any flavor extract. I'm using vanilla extract today, but you can use any flavor extract, almond, regular clear vanilla, however you like. They all work well. You're going to need 2½ to 2 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. I have them both mixed right here. So all this can go in with my all-purpose flour. And that is all you need. So let's get started. Okay, you need your stand mixer with a paddle attachment. You're going to take your butter. I like to start mixing my butter before I start adding my confectioner's sugar, my powdered sugar. So let me bring this up. And on low speed, just going to start smashing it up. Mix it well. I just want to clean my butter. Let me scrape down, because the butter just stayed right there. I'm going to scrape it down, and then I'm going to add my my powdered sugar. Just trying to get as much off of the paddle here. And this is already at room temperature, so it softens pretty quickly. I'm going to add, let me just use this. Now I'm going to just mix that together. You want to cream it, you want to combine it. You don't need to overmix, you just need to incorporate all your ingredients. And as you see, it's all coming together. And I want to get it nice and creamy. take my egg and I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. You can do 2 to 3. I'm just going to do 2. And I'm going to, while it's mixing, I'm going to pour it in. And let it mix well. It looks like it separates. It looks more like a cottage cheese type of feel. Cottage cheese type of texture here, but all you want to do is incorporate all these ingredients. And that's just going to help it mix all together. And what you're trying to do is trying to make sure that that egg is mixed very well with the powdered sugar and your butter. And now you're starting to see it become more creamy. Hopefully I'm getting that on video. See that? I'm just making sure that there's no lumps of butter or any powdered sugar or anything like that. If you don't have a stand mixer, don't worry, you can use a regular mixer for this as well. I just love using my stand mixer for everything. Now we're going to put in cup by cup the remaining all-purpose flour, baking powder, and the salt. And you let it combine a little bit before you add a little bit more. And as you see, it's starting to look more like a dough. getting the sides. Let me stop this so I can show you. Gonna remove it off of the attachment. That's why I like putting on my gloves when I'm doing this, because I can just get in there and scrape down my paddle. Again, I'm gonna scrape the sides just to make sure that I'm getting all of the powdered ingredients incorporated. But it's pretty much cleaning the bowl as it's mixing. God, it smells so good. I love this cookie. I'm going to give it one more mix around just to get all those sides that I just scraped down incorporated. There we go. Bring it up. One more mix. That's it. This dough is ready. I want to show you what it looks like. Let's move all of this out the way. Basically, when the dough comes out, if you can grab it and it's not sticking to your hands, and you can form a nice little ball. This is perfect dough. Like I said, it pretty much cleans the sides of the paddle. Now, if this was sticky to the touch, like if I touch this and it stays stuck to my hand, then I know it's not ready, and I just need to add a little bit more flour. I would say about 1 to 2 teaspoons more of, or sorry, tablespoons more of flour. All-purpose flour. And move everything out of the way. Now I'm going to take just a little bit. Let me clean off this counter, wipe it down one more time, even though I already did. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of my all-purpose flour. And I'm going to take my dough. You see how basically it really just cleans off the edge. I'm just scraping all the excess off of my bowl. I don't let anything go to waste. And I give it one more knead around just to make sure I got all the ingredients. And there is your cookie dough. See, if I touch it, it stays, it holds its shape. It does not stick to me or the glove or anything. It would have stuck to the glove or my hand easily if it was still too wet. And this is perfect cookie sugar dough. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this in two. I'm going to put it, make two nice round halves, and take some saran wrap. Take my saran wrap. This one there. Just wrap it. Second half. Just wrap it. And put it in the refrigerator for about 15 minutes. That's it. I'm gonna come back. Okay guys, I am back. My cookie dough has already chilled in the refrigerator for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm now going to show you how I store my cookie dough and get it ready for me to cut out or store away any extras and freeze them. What you're going to need to roll out your cookies, you will need either one of these handy dandy rolling pins. This one comes with 4 size rings. Let me show you real quick here. 4 size rings. It has a 2 mm, which is 1/16 of an inch. 3 mm, which is 1/8 of an inch. 6 mm, which is 1/4 of an inch, which is the size I will be using. And 10 mm, which is 3/8 of an inch. This one I will only use if I'm going to be doing cookies that need the cookie sticks, lollipop sticks added to them. That's the only time I would use that. If you do not have one of these, do not worry. I'm going to show you a very inexpensive way of making your own. And all this is doing is it allows me to roll out the dough to the thickness that I want, which is 1/4 of an inch. Okay? You're going to need some parchment paper. If you have a silicone mat, please use your silicone mat. It works great. But you're going to have your parchment paper. I've already cut these down to size. And what I do is I lay it out and I fold my paper in half. Okay? I'll show you why I do that. I'm also going to need some freezer bags, Ziploc bags. If you have those, that'd be great. I do have a tray. These are very inexpensive trays I found at the dollar store. I like them because they were the small size and they fit perfectly in my small freezer. And like I said, if you do not have this rolling pin, go to any home improvement store. Get yourself the 2 of the paint stirring sticks. You need a total of 4. And what you do is you're going to put some tape around it. This one's all messed up. But you're going to put some tape around it. And now you have 1/4 inch size. So if I take my regular rolling pin, it doesn't have to be this one, a regular rolling pin, and roll, it's going to give me the perfect thickness on each side for my cookies. Okay? This was my go-to a long time ago before I bought this. Since I do a lot of cookies, this is my lifesaver because I always keep it at this setting and I'm ready to go. I just saved my extra attachment there and put that away. Alright, so here's my dough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a section of my dough. Now this dough is pretty soft right now. And I'm going to take about that much. I'm going to take, let me move this out the way. I'm going to take my parchment paper, place my cookie dough there, take the top of the other flap of my parchment paper, and now I'm ready to roll. The dough will not stick to your rolling pin, and of course it's not going to stick to your mat, but I like always having a silicone mat because it helps the friction. Now I'm ready to just keep rolling till you get it to the exact thickness of your rolling pin. If you didn't have, remember I had this, you could do this and do the same thing, and it'll give you the exact thickness. Voila! Perfectly even dough every time. Let's say I have a cookie cutter. Now I would normally chill this even more, so I would save this. For example, I would take this just like this, put it on my tray, okay, so it stays nice and flat. And this is the reason why I have this the exact size that I need to fit inside my bag. See that? That's why I cut them down to the size I needed. But now I can take this and I can freeze this. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to just show you that. Place that one in the freezer. I still have more dough. I'm going to go ahead and do another one. I'm just going to let that one freeze just a little bit, that dough that I just put in there in the freezer. I'm going to let it just chill for a good amount before I start playing with it. So I'm going to mix these two. Do the exact same thing. Place my dough. I try to get it as square as possible, if I can. Doesn't always work. And again, let's see, I have those sticks there. I don't need it, but just so for your purposes, you don't have this handy dandy rolling pin. Roll it out. Now if your dough, let's say you put too much dough in here and it came out like this one is reaching the very tip of this, you can cut that off. Take a section and place it in different parts. Roll again. You can always shape it a little better. And anytime you move that dough, you need to flatten it to the size you need. Okay? Now this one's ready to go back in my tray and ready for freezing. I always work with very chilled dough. Let me show you. Now, by all means, this is not frozen, but it got a little firmer, a little more manageable. Okay. So let's say I have my cookie cutter and I want a flour. Let me do this one here. I try to get them as close to the next cookie. Sometimes they come out really good that they actually stay inside your cutter. And that's usually when they're frozen. When your dough is more frozen, it will actually stick a little bit more to your cutter, and all you have to do is pop it out, and it keeps its shape really, really well. So the colder it is, the more chilled, not completely frozen, but chilled it is, the better it works. But you can see here, I have already cut out these cookies, and look at the shapes. Okay, let me show you this one. Perfectly cut out cookie. So what I would do is I would put this on a tray with some parchment paper, lay it flat, and again, freeze it in its shape. I will heat my oven to 400 degrees. When my oven is ready, I will then take out my cookies, frozen, put them on my cookie tray. That's going to go in the oven. And mine, every oven is different, but I do 400 degrees. And I leave it in for 7 to 8 minutes, depending on your cookies. If your cookies are really small, a small detail decoration, those will cook a lot faster than your larger ones. So you have to adjust your timing. But an average size cookie, like this, an average size cookie cutter, which is normally about 2-3 inches, those with 7 to 8 minutes in the oven, they're done. What you want to do is when you put them in the oven, make sure that it does not get brown around your edges of your cookie. When it starts to get brown, it's already, you're overcooking it. Okay, so you want to get it, you're going to have to test a few times your oven to see how well it works. Okay, sorry, I know you guys can't see me. Sorry. But this is basically the cookie, and it comes out perfect every time. So I'm just going to put these on the sheet. If for any reason you have an edge that wasn't so sharply cut, you can always pat down the sides and shape it. But the cookie dough holds perfect its shape. So it works really, really well. Like this one has some indentations that it did not take, so I would just open it up, either with my hand, soften some edges, I'm just, any excess I can pull it out to the sides, through the back. See that? So I kind of cleaned up the edges on it, because you want to clean them up before you bake them, because when you bake them they're going to bake with it, and sometimes those little edges will burn as well. So then you have that stuck to your cookie, and you want to get it out before you actually bake it. But you see, look at the size of the cookie. It's a nice size. And when they bake, they hold that exact shape. They may stretch out, they may expand slightly, but they will not expand a lot if you keep them frozen. If your cookie dough is soft like this and I put it in the oven, it's going to expand more. Okay? Now, when they come out of the oven, they may come out with a slightly rounded top, like kind of like a little domey. Don't worry, that will flatten out when it cools. Okay? But that's basically how you do the cookies. And let me show you what I do. I have some dough that was already frozen. So let me put this aside. Let me put this here so that I can mix all of this together. Any of your excess, you just roll it back up. Put it in your Ziploc. In your plastic wrap. And like I say, I freeze my dough flat. Once my dough is frozen, and it doesn't take long, it will freeze pretty quickly. Once my dough is frozen, I will store it in my freezer. See, that was the one that was already pre-made a while back. It's frozen. This one's still pretty hard. Okay, let me show you how that will cut. And all you can do is clean out the edges. Take your tray, push it through. Oh, I didn't even get that on there. Let me do that again because I didn't get it in camera. I apologize. Okay, so this one's already pre-frozen. This one's from a week or two ago. A week ago, actually. This will last frozen in your freezer this way, packaged in a saran wrap. Will stay up to, you can get it up to, I believe it was 6 months. Okay, 6 months in the freezer. So you can make this dough ahead of time and have them ready. Okay, if you already have them cut out like that, see how it came out inside? Because it's frozen. It's not stiff frozen, but it's frozen enough. Then I would take it out, put it on my tray. Okay, now this one has a little ridge, no worries. I can always take this, ta-da, put it on the opposite side. And like I said, if it's frozen, it will pop out with your cutter most of the time. Let me do this one. This one was a little tricky because these did not go all the way to the end. So let me press down. Let me press down my center. Oh, my cookie doesn't want to release. You can always take and slide your knife underneath. So you're sliding it like this to release. Clean off the edge. This one has, this cutter I really don't like because it has all these little cavities in here. So it's gonna stick to, your dough is gonna stay in those grooves. So I'm going to clean off those edges. Yeah, I got it on camera. Good. Clean it off. Take my tray, put it over my tray, and pop it out of my cutter. Voila. And any rough edges, again, remember, just pat them and they stay pretty nice. When you freeze them like this, you can freeze them already in the shapes if you want to as well. I would suggest do the same thing. Wrap it inside of your parchment paper, between 2 layers of parchment paper, and you can store it like this. Okay, your next cookie, you're going to do the exact same thing, but just remember one thing. If your cookie is, let's say I have a small cookie here and I put a big cookie on top, that weight of that big cookie, it may bend in the areas where that cookie is not, the bottom cookie is not holding it. So always do your bigger cookies on the bottom, your smaller cookies on the top. But you can always stack them. Let me just example, let's say this was a cookie. I could just stack that on top and freeze a whole bunch of them in the tray. Once they're frozen solid, like this one is now soft because it's now at room temperature, but this was frozen. This is frozen. See how it holds the shape? Once it's frozen, I can now take my dough. This one was a small one that was left over. Take my dough, place it in my Ziploc freezer bag, seal it up, put the date and the flavor of your cookie dough. This one was vanilla, so I would put today's date and vanilla, so I know that I can keep that frozen in the freezer for up to 6 months. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to lay it flat. If the dough is already frozen, you don't need a tray. Just lay it flat, just like this, in your freezer. Or you can also put them in a container with a secure lid, but I really don't recommend it because it softens up your dough a little bit too much. I would say just leave it just like that in the freezer for up to 6 months. So I hope that was helpful for you. And that's it for the cookie. We made the dough, I showed you how to cut them out, and I showed you how to store them. So if you have any other questions, please leave comments below and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Bye bye.